Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we'll go right ahead to the open forum and panel discussion. But before that, I would like to announce that after the panel discussion, we are going to be doing a raffle draw, and we're giving away two 1,000 pesos worth gift certificates and 3 power banks for your cell phones and your iPhones. But please bear in mind, do you see those blue sheets of paper in front of you? Those are your raffle entries, so please do not forget to fill them out. If you don't fill them out, you're not part of the raffle. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite our two speakers, Director Solidum and General Manager Jimenez, to please join us in the panel. Please take your seat on stage. And joining Director Solidum and General Manager Jimenez, I would like to call on the representative from the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, Office of Civil Defense. He was the commander of the Disaster Response Task Force of the National Capital Region Command, Armed Forces of the Philippines from 2007-2008, and he was an advisor to the Permanent Representation of the Republic of the Philippines to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons of the United Nations in The Hague. He was trained in improvised explosive devices at the U.S. State Department, so please don't mess with this guest. And he is also trained in special investigations by the Special Investigation Academy of the United States Air Force and trained at the Scuba Diving Special Forces School by the Special Operations Command of the Philippine Army, and he holds a master's degree in National Security Administration at the National Defense College of the Philippines. Please welcome Brigadier General Romeo Fajardo. Sir, please. Also joining them, she has been a lifelong advocate of disaster preparedness and disaster risk reduction. She implemented in her agency the modernization plan of her agency by scaling up training of personnel and acquiring new equipment. She led the creation and promotion of the Lifeline Kit, containing essential items for survival for the first 72 hours. And she is this year's Florence Nightingale Medal awardee. Please welcome the Secretary General of the Philippine National Red Cross, Ms. Gwendolyn Pang. Ma'am, also joining them, representing one of the largest architectural firms in the world, ladies and gentlemen. She is the managing partner and heads the planning and urban design teams. She holds a master's degree in industrial economics from the University of Asia and the Pacific, a master's degree in urban planning from Oxford Brookes University in the United Kingdom, and she has completed advanced management programs at the University of Asia and the Pacific and the Instituto de Estudios Superiores de la Empresa in Barcelona, Spain. Please welcome Ms. Karima Patricia Palafox. Okay, we'd like to call on also, I'm sure he's going to talk about, whether their system is capable of robust redundancy. Ladies and gentlemen, the Regional Sales Director for Oracle Communications in Southeast Asia, and he has worked and lived in the UK, in the US, in the Philippines, and Singapore with focus on both telco and enterprise sales, Mr. Neil Orr. And facilitating this session, ladies and gentlemen, he is the Senior Vice President for Global Operations and a member of the Contact Center Association's Board of Directors. Please welcome from SPI Global, Mr. Romel Regino. Sir.
Yes, good evening again. Good evening. Yeah, there's a bit of a pause there after hearing all the information. The reason why we put this very relevant topic now is because I think not to really create panic, but really to be aware and at the same time discuss, how are we responding and making sure that we are all prepared. All right. So we've heard a lot of the experts, and we are adding a lot more heavyweights into this conversation. And I know we're gonna be able to get to hear their thoughts around, how we are responding and how we are actually continually improving our preparedness in here in Metro Manila and in the BPO. We are actually scattered all over the country. So later on, perhaps we can also understand the level of preparedness being done not just in Metro Manila but across the archipelago. All right. So before I kind of ask the first question, I want to give the floor for whoever is really excited to ask the very first question. May prize ba? All right, there's one question there. All right, okay.
I'm excited.
Oh,
I want to ask the first question.
oh, Dr. Solidum.
Are you prepared?
Are we prepared? Yes. No? Maybe? Maybe Dr. Solidum, you might want to maybe in the course of discussion, I think they're probably interested in say, we have our existing business continuity. Is it really enough? And maybe something that we would like to, I'm seeing Undersecretary, shaking her head, okay? Similarly to the West Valley fault, all right? Okay.
And my question is about communication. We heard Ryan saying that we should not communicate unless it's essential. So, there is a contradiction there because we are worried about our own employees, we are worried about other in the family. So, what's the right way to do it? And typically we might not have communication through mobile phones also in those cases. Thank you. This is the question.
I'll take that. For communications in Metro Manila, in case of disaster, any disaster, just like in Tacloban for Haiyan, we will expect that the communications will be down. You cannot use it, so we have to use the responders. The government is going to have one set of communication system and a redundant one. We will not rely on the present communication systems that, for example, the cell phones and the landlines. We will expect that this will be down. Not only that, just like also in Yolanda, all power will be down. So maybe even other services will be, transportation will be down. So we expect all of this.
What we do for preparedness is that you need to predefine a common place where you will meet or a common person to contact. So that when you are able to communicate, at least for a short while, say you're safe, I'm here, to that person. Or if you would want to meet each other, then you have to predefine where you would meet.
Comment on the communication aspects. One thing I will say to somewhat reassure the people here this afternoon is that certainly from Oracle's point of view, what we're seeing is that the service providers in the Philippines, the people that actually provide you with the connectivity, there is an increased focus in providing what I would call geographic redundancy. It's all part of resilience, but there are moves. Obviously, certain things are confidential. Can't discuss in too much detail, but I would reassure you that the telcos, Globe, PLDT, are making significant moves in that area.
I'm Gabi from Convergys. My question is about the Metro-wide quake drill that was scheduled on July 30. What's the impact of this in terms of business? Will it impact business at all? Because I think you will shut down electricity, telecommunication, and I believe that you will also paralyze the business community. So what is the severity of this to us?
Okay, we were already asked a number of questions about this. This is only from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. So what will we shut down? First of all, about traffic, okay? So the chairman says traffic signals will be out. 2, well, if your company is not willing, okay, to shut down your operation, then how will your workers be able to experience this drill? So that the idea is really to experience that earthquake, because there will be a siren somewhere that will come, that each one of us will be able to hear, and you all go out of your offices, but doing first the duck, cover, and hold. So it's a decision that you have to do. That's why you have to talk to your employees, especially for the business people.
Yeah, thank you for that, Undersecretary, because when that was mentioned earlier on the July 30, there were a couple of reactions already from our member companies, simply because the reason why we also establish our own business continuity is to make sure that resiliency is also established, and we take care of the business of our clients. So I think there are probably a couple of suggestions in terms of perhaps having a sit down and just to understand, and we can definitely work and provide on what we can do to support that particular initiative, given that it's all about really being prepared, and how can we make sure that there's a good compromise between what we're trying to do and at the same time making sure that there is minimal disruption into the business.
I miss this opportunity to ask our lifeline from the National Red Cross. After the quake, you must have taken consideration of the things that we as humans would need after the earthquake. That's why you were able to come up with that lifeline kit. What were the things that you considered when you prepared for that lifeline kit? Maybe we could also use that in our companies for our preparedness. Thank you.
Okay, number one, we've been talking about this for years, since 2006, I think. So I would like to check who amongst you here have a whistle in your pocket. Yes? Meron si Director Solidum. You must always have a whistle in your pocket, because that is your number one lifeline in case something will happen, because you can use it to alert people that a disaster is about to happen or is happening. Then you can also alert people that you need help. Then number two, in a lifeline kit, you can have a kit, individual kit, and you can have a family kit. For a family kit, it should have, of course, water, kasi you can survive without, without food for 3 to 5 days. If you have water, you can survive, no? So very important yon. Then, but we have a list of the lifeline kit in our website. I don't want to go to, the whole list of that. But I think my message that I want to give to you is that, sabi ni Doc Director Solidum kanina that, we are blessed with disasters. So we have so many disasters. We have a buffet of disasters. Name it, we have it. Then we must make, preparedness as a way of life. Like we women, di ba? We cannot leave our homes without a big bag full of stuff that we need. So, pag naiwan ang isang color example ng lipstick or whatever, we go home. Parang we're so uneasy. So, ganun din dapat if we left our whistle or any preparedness gear that we have, dapat uneasy tayo. Go home and get it. Kasi, or kasama natin every day, it's in our car, in our home, that everybody in the house, knows where it's located. And that should be a way of life. So I think with the many disasters that we have every day in our lives, we have not made disaster our friend. So it's not even our way of life yet. So for us to be able to counter that, to face that, then gawin natin part ng life natin yon.
That's very practical, actually. Lifeline kits are something that we should already starting to provide actually to our members in the organization. I just wanted to kind of tail dove on that. Ms. Pang is Dr. Solidum actually mentioned about when you talk about, people needing medical help, medical assistance, and with a limited number of hospital facilities and perhaps even mobile units to provide that first aid kit at the very least. Has Red Cross taken a look at it, and then how can that be augmented in the event of such a disaster?
I would like to go back to what Director Sudin said earlier because nag-lecture siya kanina sa atin, and I hope the lectures, every time we invite speakers, we should listen and make call to action si Director Sudin kanina at the last slide of his presentation. We must do something. Okay, so when we hear lectures, nakalagay doon that we cannot depend on on government and other agencies. Tayo dapat prepared, okay, so that you can help yourself or you can take lead in recovery efforts or in response efforts. So, yung sinabi natin kanina, do we have enough this first aid kit? Do we have enough this kind of thing? These things can be done or prepared by us individually. We can have an individual kit or we can have a family kit. So I would like to urge each and every one of us to prepare for this and leave the bigger ones to the government and agencies such as the Red Cross and other organizations. Like, do we need to set up a field hospital? Yun, kailangan natin yun. An agency to help us provide that. If, example, we need to transport people, then we need bigger vehicles to transport people if there's a massive casualty incident. But for individual consumption, individual use, we are encouraging that you prepare your own survival kit, your own family kit and individual survival kit. Kasi it will not be enough for everybody in the first 72 hours of a disaster. Yung critical stage because close ang stores, close ang mga drugstores, close ang iba't ibang mga establishment. All you need are the kits that you have prepared.
Sure.
If I may share, our own company, Palafox Associates, we're trained for it. So we're about 100 people. So 20% of us are part of the emergency preparedness and response team. So for a while, I was a part of that myself. And so the 20% of all your employees, you're trained how to rappel down from a building. So we had to train rappelling from a wall, against the wall, and rappelling without the wall. Take note that the fire trucks, their ladders are only up to the 9th floor. So what do we do after that? That's why we're also considering how to require perhaps changes in the National Building Code as well. In other countries, like for example in Hong Kong, for buildings that are above 50 stories, they require what they call a refuge floor. So it's a whole floor of just open space, so that if you're too far from the ground floor, there's at least open floor where you can have like a refuge area. So I think that's something you can consider. And we're asking for the help of the contact centers because, you're like the sweetheart of the real estate industry. You're one of the reasons why our economy is afloat, our real estate is afloat. So if you ask for changes like that, then maybe we could do improvements in our building code. Going back to this 20% emergency preparedness and response, so we all have a whistle, we all have a flashlight. We're required to have a bottle of water. So these 20% of us also know how to fight a fire with a fire extinguisher. So you should be trained. And then we're always training as well in terms of physical fitness. And don't wait for government. So look at it at company level, at building level, at community level. In the chart that Ryan from MMDA showed earlier, it showed community and then right away it's government. I think you should first talk to the business districts where you are. Like for example, those of us in Makati, what's the plan of Masaya? Those of us in the Fort, what's the plan of BGC? Per our research, the walking threshold of Filipinos is only 400 meters. But we're so far from the open spaces they identified, Intermuros Golf Course and whatnot. So let's identify from our buildings, what are the open areas that are of walkable distance without buildings, free of debris as well.
I'll take advantage since you have the mic. We recognize that the U.S. Valley Fault is something that we are all aware since early 1900s, and for some reason there are still infrastructure that's been put in, or even 16, where there was mention about 1600s and all that. So, but there are structures that are, been constructed. On a design perspective, how's like your company like us are able to take a look at this now and